Hi, in this video I'll give you an update on the plants, update on the giant pumpkins, and show you kind of what I'm feeding right now, and show you something I do pretty much daily at this point to help with the shape of the pumpkins. Stay tuned. So I'm going to go over what I've been feeding lately. My pumpkins are all over, I think they're like day 18 plus. After pollination, so that's called DAP, day after pollination. So they're all at least 18 days old, and I don't start pushing potassium until they're at least like 14 days old. I don't have like a hard set rule, but I like to push calcium during that first 14 days and avoid potassium. And the reason I do that is I've heard that it helps with cell division. So during that early stage after pollination, the plants or the pumpkins are going through cell division. So they're dividing their cells rapidly. And so I try not to push potassium because I've heard that potassium will push the pumpkins into plant growth or cell expansion. So I want to delay that as long as possible. Some growers use products called Florel and some other hormones that basically are supposed to delay the cell expansion, so it makes them stay in cell division longer. I don't use any of that. I try to push calcium to help with the cell division, and then I try to avoid potassium. So now that I am in past like the day 14, I am pushing potassium. I use a product called Master Blend. It's 4-18-38. Has a lot of micronutrients as well. And I started using that a couple years ago. It's got 38 potassium. If you know what 4-18-38, it's 4 nitrogen, 18 phosphorus, and 38 potassium. But so now I am using that. I give it, I think I did this morning, 2 teaspoons of the Master Blend, 1 teaspoon of Epsom salt, and 2 teaspoons of calcium nitrate. On the product label for this product, it says to use those other 2 products with it, and it tells you, I think it tells you the ratio of like 2-1-2. But basically when you mix those together, you want to do each of those one at a time till they dissolve. Apparently they can have reactions to each other. I don't know if they bind things up or they're not as effective, but that is one of the products I am giving right now. So I said I gave 2 teaspoons, 1 teaspoon, and 2 teaspoons. I mix that right now in 4 gallons of water, and each plant gets 4 gallons of water. I don't have a drip tape. I don't use overhead sprinklers at this point to put it on the whole plant. So I do 2 gallons of water around the base of the plant and 2 gallons of water around up by the pumpkin. That's what I do. I know it's not as good as if you could get it to the whole plant, but that's the way it is for me. I'll flip you around and kind of point what I do on the plant. Hang on. So I don't have the watering can with me. Nobody wants to watch me do that. I already fertilized today. But basically I try to get the fertilizer in what I can reach from these boards here. So I'll do like maybe a gallon or close to over here, and then I do a gallon in over here, and I kind of reach in here and I maybe get up to the first 5 or 6 secondaries. And then I'm not going to take you over there, but I try to stand on the board for the pumpkin because I can reach better, and then just get as many of the secondaries in that area as possible that I can reach from the board or up in that area. I don't know. It works for me. I rely a lot on what's actually put in the soil, what I amend this patch with ahead of time. So I think most of the nutrients come from there, but I assume me doing this helps out at least some. Okay, so on top of the Master Blend 4-18-38, I also give Cal Mag Plus. It's something I use every few days. just like the master blends every few days or whenever I get around to it. But the CalMag Plus, I mix, I think like 4 teaspoons. It's liquid, 4 teaspoons with 4 gallons of water, and I do the same thing. And then I do Wow 5-2 Wonder Blend. It's a humic fulvic acid seaweed mix. And I do that. I think it's typically like 2 teaspoons to 4 gallons of water. And I pour it on similar. And then the other thing I do is this year for the first time I'm using amino acids, and I got those from Kelp for Less. And I think I did yesterday, I did like 2 teaspoons with 4 gallons of water. I'll probably slowly increase these amounts, but that's what I'm doing currently. So I will take you around and show you the pumpkins, and then when I get close to one of the pumpkins, I'll show you what I'm doing to help with the shape. Today is Sunday, June 13th, and this is the 2177 Ford plant. So this one I actually got in and cleaned up a little bit. I got some of the leaves out of here because they're looking pretty rough, just old age and damage from most likely the cold snap we had. But I have a lot of these are terminated up to maybe there, and similar on this other side. I figure the plant is probably about 550 to 600 square feet right now. That is just a guess, but I'll take you up by the pumpkin. I'll try to just keep filming while I walk here so you can see what I have to walk through. But there is the 1931 Turner, and there is the 1970 and a half Turner. So everything's getting a little bit closer now. But here is the 2177 Ford plant. This I did get cleaned up yesterday. It was really hard to walk through here. And I finally got around to yesterday morning. I got up at 6 a.m., spent a couple hours on just this plant, but I got all the secondaries up here trained. And what I run into every year is I don't know, until I have a pumpkin actually set on the plant, I don't know how I'm going to be positioning everything. So I just kind of let everything just grow wild. I try to keep the tertiaries off, but I let everything somewhat grow wild because I don't know, I don't want to bury everything, get everything rooted in, and then like I had to cut off on this plant, I had to cut off my main pumpkin and go with my backup. So now I finally got back to it, got caught up somewhat of getting everything up here trained how I want it around the board. So what I'm doing over here, because if you notice, this is the one side of the pumpkin over here. This is the closest secondary. One thing I accidentally did early on, sorry I get my camera in there, but trying to get close to it, but I stepped on this vine early on. It still seems to be doing okay. I don't know how strong it is. Unfortunately, it's the one that goes right to the pumpkin, so it's probably a vine I wanted to be pushing the pumpkin. But the next secondary back, I am running tertiaries. There's one there, and I think there's more that hopefully will pop out. But and then that is the secondary. I'm going to curve that and bring it up all the way up as far as it'll go. And then I'll run the tertiaries off that vine up here too. So my hope is all that secondary and the tertiaries off it will feed back into the pumpkin and help push it quite a bit. And then I'll just I got the main vine going over this way, and then the secondaries on both sides going out, and hopefully that will help push things as well. But here is the pumpkin. Try to get it where I'm not in it so you can see it better. But if I remember correctly, this thing is 18 days old. It is, I don't know, it's more white than I was expecting. Its mother was, actually no, I don't know what its mother looks like, but it's, I guess you want to say sibling or another one growing off this seed last year was really orange. So not sure if it'll turn orange later or if it'll stay this color. I don't really care. I'm going for big. So I hope she looks like she is putting on some good size. Seems like for day 18 she's good size, but I'll do my first measurement on her at day 20. So at DAP 20, I'll do my first measurement of her, and that'll be in my next update most likely. This is my 1931 Turner. As you can see, I have a bunch of work to do to get the caught up with the weeds in this area. I would like to get around the main vine cleared out better, but it will get there. I'll get there. At least maybe the weeds are holding in extra moisture right now and help feeding the plant. But I am going to take you around so you can see the pumpkin, and I'll probably stop you so you don't have to watch me walk on this one like you did the last one. But this one needs a little bit more work. I kind of got things somewhat under control up there, and I can get to it pretty easy. But I'll take you there in just a second. So here is the other side of the 1931 Turner. She is growing well. This one I did kind of get under control before the other two with this up front here. But now I'm getting behind again. If you can't tell, the vines are going into the weeds there. So I need to get on top of that. I'm not sure if that, hopefully today, but there is the main vines going under the chair. I got to make sure that's not rubbing on anything there either. But here are the secondaries closest to the pumpkin. I think, if I remember right, I'm running, I have to look again, but I think I'm running a secondary back there that will end up either swooping up this way or the tertiaries, which I think are sticking out right there. Those will run up along that side as well as all these secondaries. Over on this side, I think those are just going to kind of swoop back. The secondaries over there, and then these will kind of come up this way and fill in this space over here. The reason I don't like to run much of anything here is because when this pumpkin gets too big and it's like putting pressure on the vine and I need to pull it that way away from the vine, I need to have this open so I can put a T-post in and either a come along or a ratchet strap and ratchet it back. So that is why I don't like to grow anything off the end of my boards. But if you notice over here, that little table, I'll zoom in. I have a time-lapse camera going on this pumpkin. That's a little table I made last year to kind of protect the camera. And then that light, my camera is not a night vision one, so that light I turn on at night so it shines on the pumpkin to help with the video. But that's all that is there. So this is the pumpkin. This one is 22 days old. At day 20, I took the measurement 2 days ago, and it was 91 pounds. I can tell it's grown quite a bit since then. So 91 pounds at day 20. I mean, it doesn't mean a ton, but it's a little bit bigger than mine was last year that grew to 18, 14 pounds. But definitely smaller than the two that I had the year before that grew to 1931 and 1970 and a half. So it doesn't mean a lot right now. As long as she picks it up and continues to grow well, that's all that really matters. But if you notice, I guess last video I was asking for input on which one I was going to get rid of. But if you can tell, I kept the one that was my main pumpkin on this one. And I did get rid of the backup. So that wasn't my thumbnail of my last YouTube video. That was the backup I cut off after I put the video together. But I'm going to show you something here with this pumpkin on what I do to keep the shape nice. At least under the control I have. So give me a sec. Okay, so I'm not sure how well this is going to show up on camera. I know my shadow is going to shadow the pumpkin. But this one, if you can tell, is going to be a really pretty orange pumpkin based on what she looks like right now at this young age, and she's this color already. But one thing I do is I try to keep, hopefully you can see this, I try to keep this blossom here level with the stem. So that's the stem, this is the blossom. I try to keep them level as long as I can move this pumpkin, I try to keep them level. So what I do for that, and I already did it today, so I'm really not going to do too much, but this pumpkin grows in all directions. And so it will grow this towards the vine and put pressure on it. And I don't want to pull too much. But basically what I do is I grab, and this only can happen so long, but what I do is I grab the pumpkin and get a good hold on it, and I pull it back like that. I don't know if you saw it move much, but I pull it back just so I can keep this and the stem level. And then I do prop up the vine, make sure it's loose, prop it up. I got some foam under there. Use pool noodles as well. But I try to keep those two level, and that will help with the shape as much as you can later on. This could decide to grow over. It could grow that way. But if you keep it level, I've had a lot of good success with my pumpkins growing in a decent shape later in the season once they're too big to move. So as I take you to the 1970.5 Turner, I just wanted to mention that me going through the feeding earlier on what I'm feeding right now, that came from a question from a user on how I was feeding and what I was feeding. So if you have any questions at all, just drop them in a comment, and I'll try to either answer them in the next video or I'll respond directly to you in the comments. But we're at the 1970.5 Turner, so I'll flip you around. So here is the 1970.5 Turner, and she is growing well. I am terminating this plant as well, not as much as I've been terminating the other plants, but she's been behind from the beginning. But the one thing I noticed is she doesn't have as much issues in the middle, and I think she was still in the hoop house when we had that cold snap. So I think that's why she doesn't have the same issues down the middle as the other two that were too big for the hoop houses at that time. So I did spend a bunch of time on this one yesterday as well. I got things somewhat trained. I got to figure out in this area, but I shifted the main vine over further yesterday, so I had room for these secondaries that are coming off right over here. And then I got that all cleared out as well, so I can swoop the secondaries back over there. But this is the pumpkin. She is 18 days old. She was the original pumpkin I put on this plant. The backup I have doesn't look like it's really doing anything, so I'm gonna probably get rid of that here real soon. But I'll zoom in quick. Her blossom, it's hard to tell on camera. Those are healed up. Whoops, sorry. Those are healed up. That looks fine. It looks worse on camera. But her blossom is doing well. Looks good up close in person. So I think it will be fine. If you can tell, I'm not going to take the sheet off, but she is going to be a nice orange color as well. Her mom was named Crush, was 1970.5, and she was a big orange pumpkin. Not the best shape, but she was a big orange one. So I'm hoping this one is nice and orange as well, which it looks like it will be. So now that we are at day 20 on the one pumpkin and roughly day 20 on the other two, I do typically come up with names for my pumpkins. We'll see. I haven't really put a lot of thought into it yet, but if you have any suggestions for any of my pumpkins, drop them in a comment. Maybe I'll take one of those names, or I'll come up with something on my own from some kid TV show or some show or ChatGPT or any of those type of things. So hopefully by next update I'll have names, but not guaranteed. But this is where the video is going to wrap up. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, let me know in a comment. Please subscribe if you're not. It helps me out a lot. I'm really trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm really close right now. So thank you for watching.